Everyone, we are very happy and honored to have Kaleb Dahlgren with us here on the Sticks in the Six podcast. Kaleb is a surviving member of the Humboldt Broncos bus crash and recently released his book, Crossroads, My Story of Tragedy and Resilience as a Humboldt Bronco, chronicling his hockey career, the tragic events that unfolded, and the perseverance he had afterwards. Kaleb, we can't thank you enough for coming on to the show. But first of all, hope you're doing well and staying safe. And how are you doing?
Thank you so much for having me on here, you guys. Looking forward to it. I'm doing good, thanks. Just in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan right now, keeping it safe and steady with my family. Living at home. It's the first time I've lived here since I was 15 years old. So back and at it, and it's been fun. Nice family bonding time, so I can't complain whatsoever. And home-cooked meals are a bonus, too.
There you go.
Always a good thing with that. So I guess we're going to get started with this. First off, I just want to say this book was absolutely phenomenal, very emotional, eye-opening, and it from very early on in this book, you set the tone with a lot of the topics that have been very continuous in terms of themes throughout the book. You mentioned adversity and hardship that you face, being a type 1 diabetic, your father's condition after his car crash, topics and things like you can't control everything, appreciating the little things in life. Once things happen in your life, you start to get that sense of what's important and try to change your outlook and perspective. For some that try to find that positivity in their life right now, how are you able to do that, and how are you trying to shed some light on that?
Yeah, so for me, I think all our situations in life, lots of it sometimes, most of the time actually, is out of our control. And for instance, even my diabetes out of my control, me losing my friend, my teammate, and my personal trainer, almost losing my dad, all of that was completely out of my control, and even with the crash too. So the way I view it is to focus on things I can control, which is like how I want to react to that situation. And even right now with COVID, lots of it is completely out of our control. We can't control other people, even though we wish we could. We wish we could get everyone to hop on board and get vaccinated and stay home and stay safe and all this and mask up. But we can't. We just got to control ourselves and hopefully lead by example and influence if we can. But at the end of the day, we got to make sure that we're focusing on ourselves and really taking the time to reflect and think about what we can do to be better people. And so that was one of the things I wanted to move forward, was understanding that even with the crash and the situation there, I couldn't control who's here, who's not here, or my injuries. I couldn't control even like the fact that the semi driver went through the stop sign. Like, I can't control any of that. All I can control is how I want to react to it, how I want to push forward, and how I want to live my life to the fullest for those who aren't here, but also for myself too. So those were some of the key themes that I've found throughout my life, and then finding that positive in the grind that we do have, because we all have our own grinds, whether it's family, relationships, work, school, sports. We all have our own grind. So to actually enjoy it, because life is short and it can be gone in an instant, as I learned quite young on. So
Kaleb, I'm still working on the book, and I really appreciate a lot of what you say, because you mentioned that there is times where people don't understand that they can't control everything in their life. Was there a point where it kind of just hit you that, what, I don't have control over this? Was it something that came after following the accident, and from there, I mean, how do you maintain such a positive attitude?
yeah, so for me, I learned that quite a young age. I'd honestly say with diabetes was like when I really first got the grasp of it. Never really sunk in though until I'd probably say my dad's situation was probably one of the bigger ones, where I was like, okay, I literally can't control this at all. I just got to make the most of my situation for him and try to play to my best abilities and honor him. And so I think that was kind of when it really hit me. But within the instance of a crash, it was after I was sitting in a hospital bed, and I was just asking all these why questions. And like, why am I here? Why are others not here? Because I had people beside me and behind me who passed away. That just didn't make any sense whatsoever. And then, why did this have to happen to us? What could I have done better? I wish I could change it. All of those thoughts creep in your head. But at the end of the day, you literally can't change anything. You can't. I couldn't go back and change time. I couldn't go back and make 1 second delay or whatever. There's nothing I could have done. And that was hard, but I had to accept it. And I think that's the part that people forget, is the actually acceptance of it, and accepting that they may never find a why for their questions. And some of the questions are going to be unanswered, and that's just life. And so for me, that was one of the things that I took away. And it was probably, say, a week in the hospital, probably, maybe a little bit less. I stopped asking the why questions. And I focused on, okay, what can I do moving forward here? Because I'll never get some answers. I have to learn to accept that. And even with my diabetes, I'd never get an answer. Or losing my personal trainer, my teammate, never get an answer. Even my dad being sick and almost passing away, would never get an answer. So all of these things in my life have happened beforehand that I knew that I would never be getting answers for. And this was another situation, obviously a lot more severe. And there's not just one, but 16 affected who I consider to be my family. But it was something that I had learned from a younger age on to accept that there is no why and that we need to focus on the positives. And so up to today, I think right now that helps is I have like a gratitude journal. And I remember I write down when I wake up in the morning, I write down 3 things I'm grateful for. And even today, one of the grateful 3 things is that I have a house over top of my head, food on the table, and that I get to share my story with other people. And those are 3 things I'm very grateful for. And it's something simple too, like even that we're still here and we have a podcast, like the fact that we're even on this podcast right now, we have the technology to still communicate like this and be safe about our communication is something special too. So yeah, there's tons to be grateful for in this world. And even being here today, we should be grateful for the day that we have. So yeah, I think for me, it's just enjoying the grind in life and finding the positive in every day, because there always is a positive. There's always a negative too, but there's always a positive in every day. It's to focus on that positive.
Yeah, you just mentioned it right now. Like you mentioned the why me was always very synonymous throughout the whole entire book. But like you just said right now, you know, it's out of our control, and you try to find that positivity even in the hardest moments. And 2 hardest moments for me reading in this book was chapter 12, where it had 4 blank pages, where it just signified, you know, the days where you couldn't remember anything about the crash until you actually woke up. And then the actual chapter 16 going through everything about living through with your experiences with your teammates, your coaches, and everybody else that was involved. How difficult was it writing those 2 or those chapters, especially chapter 16, where it was basically a mini eulogy for each one involved?
Yeah, chapter 16 was definitely difficult. I'd say the hardest one by far. And even the days I don't remember was hard too, but I didn't really have to live that again because I just didn't remember it.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like I was really going through it. It was actually when I woke up in the hospital. That was a really tough part, was the hospital aspect and reliving that. And what I saw, what I felt, all of that was hard. But for me, the blank pages were something I wanted in the book for sure. And you're right, it was signify the days that I don't remember. I was in a state called post-traumatic amnesia, where you're able to like walk around and converse with people, but you don't remember it. And so like I have completely blank phase of it. And some people don't walk around. Some people are in a coma or whatever. But for me, I was actually talking to people and was conversing. I have 0 recollection. And so I wanted to really have a big signifying impact within those blank pages to really show that there's nothing I remember. And those days are literally wiped from my memory. And then for the 16, you're right. I wanted something to be a tribute to those 16 who aren't here. I wanted to be a tribute chapter. And not gonna lie, there's not many tribute chapters out there. I tried doing some research to see if there's people who wrote chapters about lost ones, but there's not really one for 16 out there. There's maybe one chapter for like talking about how much one person meant to them, but not an actual tribute chapter. And so for me, that was one of the big things, was to honor those who aren't here and to kind of show the world how amazing they were and how highly I thought of all these individuals and the things I could take away from them, because there are 8 billion people on this earth. And the fact that I had a connection with those 29 on the bus and the 16 aren't here is pretty special, I think. And so if you look back at it, it was difficult, but it was also nice to kind of share their memories and what I thought of them. And it also provided me healing too, so that if people ask me later on in the future what I thought of, say, Brody Hines, I'd say go read chapter 16. And like, it's just nice to have that out there for the world to see and know that how much I felt and loved everyone on that bus. And so it was cathartic, but it was definitely the most difficult chapter.
So 5 weeks at number 1 on the Canadian bestsellers list. obviously you mentioned it's an opportunity for you to share what these people meant to you, what what memories you had, what it how it signifies your life and your growth as well. What was it like working with a guy like Dan Robson to tell your story? And at what point did you realize that you were going to write a book about your experience?
Yeah, so Dan Robson was absolutely amazing. But I'll kind of backtrack. So I didn't really think I was gonna write a book my entire life, not gonna lie. In 2019, I did one speech, and it was about my life actually. It wasn't about diabetes because I've done tons of work with Dahlgren's diabetes, JDRF, and like doing advocacy and doing speaking engagements and all that. So I was up there on stage, and it was about diabetes. My dad also was my dad, and then how I recovered from the Broncos situation. And so I'm up there shaking, reading this speech, and I ended up finishing it. And afterwards, the person was like, "Hey, you need to write a book." And I literally was laughing. I was like, "There's no way I'm writing a book." There's like, I'm sorry, I'm a student athlete right now. There's no possible way I'm writing a book. And they're like, "No, like your story could really touch other people." So I said, "Yeah." Kind of put it to the side. Not gonna write a book. Kept on doing these, and I kept on getting more and more people telling me I should be writing a book. And I even was getting DMs from people saying that I'm impacting their life and that they want me to write something about it. And I just kept getting more and more. So I ended up talking to my agent, Jeff Loans with Talent Bureau, and I was like, "Hey, what's going on here? Is this normal?" And he's like, "No, it's not normal." But he's like, "Your story does really impact other people's lives." And so that kind of sat with me, and I was like, still don't really think I should write a book. So I guess my agent at the time was getting some offers and some people talking to him about a book. And then I actually talked to Haley Wickenheiser about it. I was like, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And she said, "Yeah, I don't know. Your story can truly impact others. Like I would 100% think that you could help other people with your story." So I still kind of sat there like, don't know. And the whole idea behind it was that I didn't want it to be all about the Broncos because that was not my life. And it was just one part of my life. And I didn't want my life to be centered around the Broncos because it's not. And then there's also how are the families going to react to it? How was I going to feel internally about this and sharing my story? And how was I going to put it out there? And how was I going to be able to help others without it, like without it trying to think of the right way. I just want to make sure I was able to help others in the right way possible and not have it come across as a wrong way because that's not what I want. And so I was able to donate a portion of proceeds to Stars, which is awesome. And that's one of the big things that actually made me want to write this book was actually to help that organization. And then at the time though, I was still like, I don't think I'm going to do it. So I kind of backtracked a bit. And then I was sitting in class one day, my professor was like, "Hey, talking," and he was like going on a little spiel, and he was like talking about the government and everything going on. And he was like, "If you truly want to impact the world, it starts with you." And then that was when it really hit me. Like, I do want to make a difference in this world. I've been trying to help others my entire life, and my story could probably help some people. So I thought if I could help maybe one or two people share my story, then it'd be worth it. And so talked to my agent, talked to HarperCollins, talked to him at Random House and chose HarperCollins. And then ended up meeting Dan after. So that's where Dan comes in the picture. And Dan was incredible. HarperCollins was like, "Oh, you got to work with this guy." And so I met with Dan and we instantly clicked. And he's such a professional and an amazing person too. And he was really respectful throughout the whole process. So yeah, it was incredible working with him. And then Jamie as well helped out tremendously too. She usually proofreads just before he sends it off to me. So they work in a great team. Yeah, so I was so fortunate to work with them. And I give Dan tons of credit too for this. It was a collaborative effort, and we both had tons of good ideas to put in. And I'm very grateful for his support throughout this process.
Your head coach, Darcy Hogan, he was a firm believer of making connections with the community, taking responsibility, and giving back. And that's where, your Foundation for Diabetes has come in, which has been a major significant part of your life. The proceeds going to Stars, who helped out in everything that was involved in terms of transporting patients back and forth from hospitals. How much of an impact did he have on your life and to influence the decisions that you make to be that kind of role model for people right now?
Yeah, so I'd say Darcy definitely had a major impact on my life. And the cool part about coaching is that you can have an impact on people in so many different ways. And Darcy really want to impact us as human beings too. Obviously, you have the hockey side to us. At the end of the day, we are human beings, and the hockey is just a sport that we do play. And so that was one of the big things he wanted to reiterate. And even with our core covenant, family first, I really felt like our team was a family, and we were all connected like that. And for us to help out a community, he always pushed us to do that. And I was fortunate enough to be able to try to be out there as much as I could in the community and to give back. And he was so supportive throughout it all. So I think that really meant the world to me, was just having his support throughout it. And especially with the diabetes being launched, he was so for it. He was pumped about it when I talked to him about the program, absolutely pumped. And then even with all the stuff I was doing with JDRF and the community in Humboldt, he was super, super excited for that. So he was definitely one of the main influencers in my life. And it even makes me want to continue on more because of him, and to continue giving back, to continue helping others. I think my purpose on this world is to truly help others and make a difference in their lives for the better and for positive. And so that's why I want to be a chiropractor. I have so many patients that come in on a daily basis, and I get to heal them from their pain. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things for me. It'll make me super happy in life. I'll never have to work a day in my life, let's say. So I think Darcy has had a huge impact on me as a person, and has really developed me into an overall community-minded person because of his influence.
How much has the Diabetes Foundation grown from a couple of years ago till now?
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough so I guess I'll kind of backtrack here. I committed to York during my season in Humboldt verbally. Nothing was official though, and they said we'll wait until after playoffs. So obviously our playoffs got delayed due to the crash, and we got out of the playoffs, and the SJHL kind of moved forward. So anyways, after a little couple of weeks or so, they came to visit. They were coming for a Mark Cross Humboldt Strong tour, and they offered me a spot to be a line again. And I could be a line whenever I wanted, first year to third year, 7 years, 5 years down the road. Whenever I was ready to be a line, I could be a line. And so they also said that they wanted me to carry on my Dahlgren's diabetes. And so I was super, super pumped about that. And that meant the world to me, because when I first talked to them in February and had the verbal commitment, that's what they said too. They said, we want you to bring this program to York and continue it. And that was one of the big things when I was picking a school, was to be able to continue it on. So it worked out perfectly. And I had my first ever York diabetes in Humboldt, where it all started. So it was absolutely beautiful, kind of the full circle with that. And then it's grown. So when I went to York, I want to say 8 or 9, maybe 10, probably around there. And then when I went to York, I got another 6. So I'm at 16 right now. And I don't really want this to be a huge program per se. I like it to be more individualized, and so I can actually be close and reach out to these diabetes and really mentor them and let them grow and have any questions answered and always be there for them. Because I feel like once it gets to like 100, 200, I'm not going to be able to have that personal connection with their families, remember everything about them or all the small details. And then hopefully this creates a ripple effect so that I do impact, let's say, these 16 lives, and then they go out and they go impact another 16 lives. And then those 16 lives that impacted create another 16 lives. So it's kind of just having that ripple effect, so that hopefully one person can pass it on to another, to another, to another, and then creates more awareness around the diabetic community. So it has grown, which is great. I'm not too sure where I want to take it now that hockey won't be in the picture with chiropractic studies. I'm not sure where we're going to go with that. So I have to talk to the diabetes. I'm actually meeting with them all here the next kind of month here in May. So looking forward to that.
Kaleb, I know you said you didn't want the book to make it seem like the Broncos were the center of your world. But following the crash, one of the things that Peter and I have talked about, especially on the anniversary of the crash, was the fact that, around the nation, around the North America, around the globe, there was, people putting sticks on their porches, and it was such a small gesture, but what did it mean to, somebody who was involved in the crash, that, there was this solidarity, not just with the hockey world, but just in terms of, people just around the nation hearing about the crash, and it impacting, more people than just those actually impacted by it.
Yeah, I honestly had no idea when I was in the hospital how big it was. And I'm not gonna lie, like you're in this little small place and you're on your own floor and you're with your family and friends and your teammates and their families and their friends, and you really don't realize what's out there. And of course, like you see it trending on social media and all that, but you really don't understand. So when I did leave the hospital, I literally everywhere I went in Saskatoon, especially, there was green and gold on like street signs and on lampposts. And then there's also "Go Broncos Go" on signs, "Humboldt Strong" on signs. Every second or third car had a Humboldt Strong sticker. It was absolutely crazy. And then when you go in the neighborhood, every single house had their sticks out. And I even know of people that went out to Canadian Tire and bought a stick just to put on their porch because that's how much it touched them. So to hear and see these stories is absolutely incredible. And it truly did help me heal. I know personally, this whole support around the entire, not even just Saskatchewan or Saskatoon or Canada, it was the entire world, truly helped me heal. And I'm forever grateful for that, because knowing that you have somebody in your corner is always special. And that was something that I will never take for granted. But also even made me more aware of people who don't get enough support too in their tough times in life, and how we need to be there for those people too. So for me, yeah, it leaves me speechless today still talking about it, because I can't fathom how much it's helped me become better and heal and really grow.
Kaleb, in the book, you said it best yourself, that there were times where you said that you were a miracle yourself. I mean, dealing with being a type 1 diabetic, going into those, shocks and everything, the crash, the injuries, still managing to come out on top. And there were even times where doctors are questioning with your injuries that, there's no way that this should be happening. Many always try to look for signs of one, or like try to see signs of a miracle, but what happened to you truly is that there is no other way to describe it.
Yeah, I honestly, it's pretty crazy just to explain to people how severe my brain injury was and where I'm at today. And the fact that it leaves like world-renowned Dr. Charles Tatter speechless, and him shaking his head is absolutely crazy. And even when I don't have the symptoms and I am on the ice and like my teammates are saying, "Hey, you could really play. We'd love if you play. You look great." That's so nice to hear, but it's also hard to at the same time, because it's like, yeah, I'd love to, but you guys don't understand what I'm kind of to go through with my brain here. Like I'm feeling great, but the image doesn't look great. And even like you said, um, the doctors were astounded and people were calling me a miracle and all that. And even people were questioning me, thinking that I was just faking it or stuff like that, but I truly wasn't. And I was just very, very fortunate to have these circumstances. And yeah, there's no rhyme or reason. So I just have to make the most of these chances I'm given an opportunity. But even like in the book, I said how I was like passing all these tests and doing really well and breaking records, and doctors were astounded. And the crazy part about it was that I thought I had the wrong MRI image of my brain. And because that's like I just honestly thought that was what it was. There was mixed ups before. Then I honestly thought that was probably the reason. I was like, okay, well, I obviously had a brain injury. I don't remember 4.5 days. And I obviously had like different personality while I was in hospital. And even as I was getting out of the hospital, I still had different personality. I'm slowly getting back to myself. But obviously, if I'm doing this well, I must not have that severe. So we ended up getting another scan, and that was when it really hit me just how lucky I was, because the scan came back and it was the exact same as the one on April 9th, 2018. And it was a year later. So I think that was when it really hit me just how lucky I am and how I needed to calculate risks and everything in life, but still try to enjoy it to the fullest. So yeah, I'm forever grateful for my condition that I'm in right now, and lucky to be able to pursue my dreams and passions still without any significant difficulties.
I have to ask, Wayne Gretzky wrote the foreword for your book. What does it mean to you to have somebody of that magnitude be a part of this whole process?
Yeah, it's pretty cool to see him on the front cover there. Um, it it's just unbelievable how closely knit the hockey world is, and how many people came together too, and how there's so much love and support for the Broncos. I seriously am, like I said, so grateful for that, and to have a legend, literally probably the best known hockey player ever to play the game on the cover is just, yeah, it's unbelievable. Never would have imagined in a million years. And so even the Gretzky family has been amazing too. All the Broncos and all the NHL players have been incredible too. It's seriously has been, it's showed me that the hockey world is super closely knit and there's tons of good people and it's filled with good people. And I think that was one of the big things I was able to take away, which is how great our hockey world is. And yeah, sometimes we do have a bad rep, but if you really look deep, there are tons of great people in it. And I'm fortunate enough to have met lots of them.
Do you still tune into a lot of the hockey games going on right now? And if so, obviously we're in Ontario. As you mentioned, you're in Saskatchewan. What do you think of the Canadian division? Is it something that we should keep going forward?
Yeah, no, I still tune in now. I really enjoy it. I love the Canadian division, not gonna lie. I love the rivalries that there are, and there's lots of bad blood, and it's kind of cool to have a Canadian division. I would recommend it for the future for sure, but I love the Vegas Golden Knights. They're my team, them and the Caps. I am starting to move to a little bit of Toronto fan, not gonna lie. I'm starting to give it some rep. I've lived there for 2 years, gonna be there for hopefully another 4, so starting to give them a little bit love too. But yeah, I absolutely love the Canadian division and hoping that it's going to be, well, I know it's going to be super exciting playoffs here. It's so different. There's never like any other season before. So the guys are playing like every single second day, pretty much every day, every second day. And playoffs is going to be an absolute grind. So I think whoever can remain healthy and is the deepest is going to win it all.
Well, we are very glad that you're slowly coming over the Leafs Nation right now. So that is a huge bonus for us. But Kaleb, once again, thank you so much for coming on to the show to talk about your book. When I think of perseverance, positivity, and hope, I hope that everyone out there thinks of you and this book as well. We wish nothing but the best of you for the future. And thank you again for coming to talk with us.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the kind words. And you guys are doing amazing things too. And definitely wishing the Leafs have a great postseason or playoff run here. We're looking forward to that. So thank you very much for having me on here, though. It's an honor. I really appreciate the kind words.
Thanks again, Caleb.
Thank you.
Thanks.